No. So I'm now going to hand over to Andrew to speak about governance service and protocol for the meeting. Thank you.
Good evening, committee. Just a reminder, only speak when invited to by the chair. If you're referring to a specific page or picture in a report, refer to the page number. For those joining remotely, please keep your camera on during the proceedings unless you're having bandwidth connection issues. If you wish to speak, use the raise hand function and direct all communications via the chair. Please ensure that your mics are muted when you are not speaking, apart from the chair, who does not need to mute their mic at any stage. If you are having technical difficulties, please use the chat function in Google Meet to alert the meeting. Please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the committee or to make other comments, and any persistent disruptive behaviour will result in removal from the meeting. Many thanks.
Item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence. I've received apologies from Councillor David and Aoife, and Councillor Lynch and Ferrier are joining online. I can't see Councillor Williams online, so taking apologies from Councillor Williams also. Item 2, is there any declarations of interest? So just to note really that I am the chair of the Local Government Association Children and Young People's Board. I'm also the deputy leader of the LGA Labour Group, and while the part of the LGA hadn't dealt with the recommendations for code of conduct, just thought that I would mention that in light of declaring interest. Item number 3, to confirm the unrestricted minutes of the standard meeting held on the 11th of January. Do members have any questions or queries? No, agreed. Thank you. Moving on to item 4 of the meeting. This is a report on our training and development programme for 2001-2022. Can I hand over to Andrew to introduce the report? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to advise members, this report is an information report only. It's just advising of the various training that's been offered since you had a report, the last of which I believe was in July last year. You can see a list of that training under paragraph 5.4. You'll also note that there's some proposals in 5.2 about the offer to member induction post the local elections. This report is presented on behalf of member services, with apologies from Bruce DeVille, who's unable to attend due to leave. However, we are joined by Soma and Jessica, and who may be able to answer some of your questions, and if there's any we can't address, we'll take them away and refer them back via email to the committee. Many thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Do colleagues have any questions or comments? No, just to note that the expectation of the comments that members of this committee have made in terms of training, what should be mandatory, the types of training, just hope to see that reflected going forward in the scheduled work. Thank you. So just asking everyone to note the updated report. Noted, thank you. Item 5 is members' register of interest and gifts and hospitality form. Let me hand over to Louise. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bramble. I hope that the report before you is self-explanatory. As members of the committee will note, we adopted a new code of conduct at full council in January, and following on from that adoption, and also the receipt of comments from members around our current form that we use for declaration of interest, the opportunity was taken to carry out a quick review to ensure that it was remained consistent with the new code, but also to address those comments. You'll see that we're proposing some amendments to the form, and these are explained in part 4 of your report. Predominantly, this is around introducing guidance within the form itself, which will sit alongside the guidance that appears in the Member Code of Conduct guidance, but also to split out the declaration of interests from the expenses and hospitality, given gifts and hospitality, not expenses and hospitality, given that that latter form is likely to require to be updated more frequently, and we just thought that may prove easier for members. I'm happy to take any questions and or comments on the forms as presented.
Thank you. Any questions or queries? Thank you, Councillor Hanson.
Can you just remind councillors to use their microphones?
I'm sorry, Chair. I was
That's all
just
right.
complimenting the officers on their work on this. No
Thank
questions.
you. Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Lynch, and then I'll go to Nicola. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. Again, very similar to Councillor Hanson, just wanted to say thank you to the officers. I remember, I think it probably is literally 2 years ago to the week, sitting with officers to look at this form, and it's really great, and it's very encouraging to see it in its real publication now as well. So it's a real, I feel like I've done something in my 4 years as a councillor. I'm sure I've done lots of other stuff, but no, it's really great piece of work that the committee's done, and it wasn't just me, lots of other people were involved, but yeah, great work. And then, like you say, it's going to be complement the great work that's been done by members' services as well around supporting us as councillors as we go forward into the next administration. So thank you, Chair.
Hi, so I don't know if this is me being pedantic. Good evening, everyone. It's a genuine question. So the forms, and echo how great they are, refer specifically to elected members and councillors and so on. Genuinely curious, is this just because that's the most people who fill out the form? Because we know that, for example, co-opted members also have to fill out the forms. Is there a version that's called not elected members, or is this supposed to be like multi-purpose for everyone? Because it just struck me that I've had to fill out the forms, for example, and I'm not an elected member. So I'm just wondering if the same form is being used for not elected members, and if that's just going to be the same with a bit of wording change, that's all.
Thank you, Nicola, and thank you, Deputy Mayor. Apologies, I should have made that clear in my introduction. Yes, there will be effectively the same form for our voting co-optees and co-opted members. Obviously, with some slightly amended text where it refers to elected members, we will change that wording within the form.
Thank you. So, and I would just like to reiterate thanks really to the officers that have worked alongside me with this, and especially Councillor Lynch and other elected members that have cast their eyes over the form to say, actually, this doesn't quite make as much sense as we think. And I think the work has done on it is testament. And, you know, this committee has got a big drive in terms of how we empower, support, facilitate new elected members coming into administration to help to equip them to do a job that they will be doing as elected to this council, and part of this is part of that work, so it's fully appreciated. Thank you. Can I recommend that the Standards Committees endorse the revisions to the forms of the Declaration of Gifts and Hospitality form, and that it will come into effect of May 2022? Great, thank you. Item 6, so it's the amendment to the dispensation previously granted on the London Energy Board. Louise, can I ask you to introduce the report? Thank you.
Thank you. Members will recall, certainly those members who were with us back in February 2021, that there was a report before you surrounding dispensations for the London Energy Limited. The report erroneously referred to our councillors who are appointed to the North West London Authority as our council representatives within that report, not only to the councillor who is on the London Energy Limited board. And the purpose of this report is to correct that, because there certainly appeared to be some confusion in the minds of the public as to who exactly was on the board and who were our simply I say, our appointed representatives on the North London Waste Authority. I'll get my words in the right order in a moment. So that's the purpose of this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or queries? Okay. Can I just ask members then to note the amendments to the previous report dated the 17th of February 2021? And then we are going to go on to item 7, which is the updates on complaints received under the Members' Code of Conduct. Louise, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee receives 2 reports during the year with regard to complaints that have been received by the monitoring officer alleging breaches of the Code of Conduct. The first of these normally appears before you in July as part of your annual report, and then this second one in this particular meeting. So this is a report that you will all be familiar with. You will see at part 4 of the report there are details about the complaints that have been received since July, of which there were 9, one of which was later withdrawn. The report does go into very brief details about those complaints. Members will be aware that the full details of complaints are confidential unless and until a breach of the Code of Conduct is established, when there's an obligation to make public those matters, hence why there is only limited information before you. But hopefully that will give you a flavour of the complaints that we have received. There aren't any particular trends to be aware of in respect of the complaints, save that, as has been the case certainly for the last few reports, social media again plays a role in why those complaints have been made, and members are asked to note this report.
Thank you. Do colleagues have any comments or queries? Councillor Mead.
Just a very quick comment, really. I suppose as we look to the new administration, and obviously we're about to go into the election period, that it's just noteworthy that most of them are about social media interactions and therefore outside of the purview of the council, or obviously not meeting a threshold, which is a complaint. I just wonder if in the next term we might think about spelling out a little bit more clearly what does and doesn't meet a threshold for a social media complaint, because I can see that someone disliking being blocked is not particularly the concern of the council, for example. That's normal interaction. But for those periods when, if and when it does arise, what it might be and what it might not be, to reduce that, because some of them seem probably well intentioned but not relevant to the council.
Happy to take that on board.
Councillor Hanson, am I preempting that you wanted to comment or not?
It may not be possible for the officer to answer my question, but looking at the third bullet point, would it be possible for the Code of Conduct to be broken in relation to the manner in which complaints made about a councillor were handled? Because I thought the Code of Conduct applied to members and not to how the officers carry it out. But I will completely understand if it's not possible to answer that question without revealing details of the complaint.
Thank you. So, and just to build on Councillor Mima's point, actually, as if by magic, with the note that I wrote, social media with a big exclamation mark, is what Councillor Mima talked about. I just think that it just reiterates the point that we said about mandatory training, and absolutely, whether you are a new candidate, especially if you are a new candidate, or an existing councillor, it's really important that you have that mandatory training on social media as part of your role as an elected member, and how to manage the use of that. I think going forward, and also as well, if you are an elected member, if you receive unpleasant comments, of how to manage that as well and where to go. I think all of that is equally as important, but I just think going forward, the nature of complaints that are happening there and only there, I think it's important that we just begin to equip people to better manage social media. Thank you.
Thank you. With regard to the sort of Councillor Hanson's question, for the most part, it is difficult to see how the manner in which a member deals with a complaint that has been made to them, about whether that's about a council service, predominantly about a council service, would always be a breach of the Code of Conduct or always not be a breach of the Code of Conduct. There is the potential that for it to fall within an ambit of bringing the council into disrepute if there is a consistent failure to deal effectively with casework or complaints that are brought to the member. But it seems to me that's probably about the only place within the code where that could sit.
Thank you.
I confess to not really understanding this third bullet point, but I'm happy to leave it at that. I appreciate it might be hard to say any more without breaching something else.
Thank you. So on that, can members note the report? Thank you. So just to bring to your attention, this is the last meeting before the May 2022 elections. I want to thank each and every one of you for the part that you've played in ensuring that we uphold the standards of this council. Your input has been integral to the work that we have done, and I think that we've put ourselves in a good position to support new and existing candidates that get elected to council in May 2022. I would like to extend a particular thanks to Councillor Hanson as she is not restanding. Just thank you for your part that you play, your integrity and your forensic eye and attention to detail. It will be missed, and just to thank you for your dedicated service to the council.
Thank you, Chair.
So I'm going to close the meeting. Thank you all.